Hey, this is Bob Quinn with Steel City Rings TikTok, and I'm joined by Zach Franciscus talking about Steelers training camp. Friday Night Lights was last night. We had practice again today. A lot of cool stuff going on. Justin Fields and George Pickens are starting to look like a really solid connection. Zach, tell us about practice the last couple days in that duo.
Well, it's becoming something legitimate. Like not just like, oh, those are some good passes. There's a legitimate connection going on. And the reason is Russell Wilson's not playing. And when he is playing, he's not doing much. There seems to I don't like the word arrogance, but there does seem to be a bit of an aloofness about all of this with Russell Wilson. I don't like the fact that he just comes in Friday Night Lights, he came in and handed it off and then left. Today he came in through maybe three or four passes, nothing spectacular. But Fields, his accuracy is great. His legs are there, and consistent touchdowns to Pickens, consistently and over the middle. It's not just the sideline amazing ones that we know. It's the middle of the field being utilized. So two wonderful things.
Yeah, you almost have to wonder with Russell Wilson at this point. Is it the old, hey, did the Steelers, they saw an opportunity when he was injured? We don't know the severity of the injury. I mean, generally, Russell Wilson's been a pretty tough guy over his career. And it may be that old situation where, he's 99% healthy, he's not 100%, because Justin Fields is just playing so well. Speaking of playing well, I hear that the punting looks a little bit different than it has with previous years with Presley Harvin the third. How's our new guy look, Zach?
Oh, there's no comparison. I'm hearing words I've never heard before. Booming and soaring, and it's not just hang time; it's accuracy. Cameron Johnston is not just showing that Presley Harvin wasn't, I don't want to say competent, but he wasn't up to the par of an NFL punter. But we have a really good one. We didn't just get an upgrade, we got a legitimate punter who knows what he's doing. And considering how important that is going to be if we have those tight defensive games to be able to flip the field and win that field position game, you need a punter that isn't Presley Harvin.
Well, if his leg is as powerful as his lookalikes comedy, Bill Burr, I think we're going to have a very pleasant surprise on the special teams in Pittsburgh when the season starts. You know what? Speaking of which, the backs on backers is always a big deal in Steelers training camp. And of course, opening day, you got Jalen Warren, you got Peyton Wilson. We heard some good stuff about that. But they did it again on Friday Night Lights. And Jalen Warren and Landon Roberts went at it. And Zach, kind of fill us in on this whole thing that happened and blew up.
Well, the wonderful thing about this specific backs and backers, and that was Friday Night Lights that it happened, is it seemed like a culmination of all of the offseason leading up to this. We were worried about our middle linebacker position, considering all of the injuries that happened. So we bring in Patrick Queen. We're worried about how Landon Roberts is going to bounce back. Najee Harris has his fifth-year option decline. Jalen Warren has a for some reason still needs to prove something because everybody needs to have an RB1 and RB2. They can't have just two guys. So you have one of Tomlin's favorite drills that he specifically says is linebacker advantage, and a Landon Roberts goes up against Jalen Warren, runs through Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren's not having any of that, asked to do it again. Not only does Jalen Warren stand up to him, just to the point where Landon Roberts comes back and grabs Jalen Warren's face mask. Then you see a helmetless Najee Harris run up from the side and get into Landon Roberts' face, which prompts a helmetless Patrick Queen to run over. So you had the core that everyone was worried about. Just there was a body language about Najee Harris that I have never seen. Not that I haven't seen in a while. I have never seen the swagger that he went up and backed up Jalen Warren with. So everyone looking for this competition or some kind of venom between Warren and Najee, there's none. Whatever Harris had to do to get past all that, he's past it. And all he's focused on is him and Warren running the league.
Yeah, Najee's a total pro. I mean, the contract situation, he could easily be pouting. We saw Deontay Johnson do this in his hold in a couple of years ago. Najee is taking the exact opposite tack, and I can't give him enough credit for it. I mean, even if he ends up not signing with us or we go our separate ways after this year, he's a guy that you're going to want to root for going forward. total professional, total class. Just great to see. You would kind of expect that from an Alabama kid, but he could have handled things differently. And not every Alabama kid turns out to have that class and dignity, but he really does. I understand there's been some issues with, maybe some scuttlebutt on Minka not practicing. Zach,
Well,
is that
Minka
right?
hasn't really Yeah, he hasn't been seen all that much, and that might just be because people aren't looking. Because today, when someone specifically asked why he asked Tomlin why Minka wasn't practicing, Mike Tomlin said, "No, Minka's been practicing." Named three different drills that Minka practiced in that day, and then specifically said that he is being held out so they can see what other people can do. Later on in an interview, Minka was asked why he wasn't practicing. He laughed. He said, "It's year 7." And that he doesn't need it. That's pretty. He doesn't want to say it straight out, but Minka doesn't need it. And when the coaches also agree, we're fine. We don't need to see what Minka can do. We're going to see it in the preseason games a little bit. So anyone who's worried about Minka Fitzpatrick, if there was a little bumps and bruises a couple days ago, was fine now.
Yeah, well, that's good news. And let's be honest, like you said, 7 years in. I mean, guys like Cam and TJ a little more seasoning, but Minka really wore down the last couple of seasons, and last year especially because he was so involved in stopping the run. It's not that I don't want to see my free safety being a great tackler, because Minka is a great tackler, and it's great that he can put his nose in the box and be very effective. But I'd really rather him be back in center field making plays on the ball versus stuffing the run in with a Landon Roberts, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, and hopefully soon a healthy Cole Holcomb.
Oh, and
Boy,
actually, Corey Trice has been coming down and been used in that weird little nickel linebacker thing a lot more than has been. So that rotation is fun. And by the way, Corey Trice has looked active. The push-offs that you need to see from an ACL guy are there. I've torn my ACL before. I know what you're looking for to come back from something like that. I like what I see from Corey Trice so far.
yeah, I can't wait to see the first preseason game and kind of watch how these middle linebackers fly around. I know we probably won't see too much of Patrick Queen, but I'm really looking forward to seeing Peyton Wilson, Landon Roberts. I expect those two will get a lot of playing time.
Oh,
And Corey Trice in those dime packages. That's an interesting wrinkle. I really want to see that play out too.
sure. And actually,
Now,
speaking of Peyton Wilson, Peyton Wilson gave an interview where he was talking about Minka because they asked about Minka not practicing, and not only did Peyton Wilson pretty much laugh off the thought that Minka doesn't know what he's doing, he said that Minka was the most professional football player he's ever been around in his entire life. And it's because of the way he says this specifically, way he prehabs and rehabs for practice. That means a great deal. Peyton Wilson has shifted his entire regimen to match what Minka Fitzpatrick does. So if Minka isn't practicing, it's all for a purpose. He is practicing, it's for a purpose. Trust the Minka.
absolutely. The last thing, got to give a kind of a shout out to our friend Dave over at Steelers Sanctuary. He tweeted out about Mike Tomlin trolling maybe the media and Steelers fans with the offensive line combinations. If I haven't been clear in the past, let me be clear now. The fact that Dan Moore and Troy Fatanu were the left and right tackles as the ones really irks me. It is way past time for Dan Moore. I overreacted on day one. Okay, I get it, even though I am not a Dan Moore fan at all. But we're a week and a half in. Well, the next week we're playing a game. Why is Broderick Jones not on the field? Why is Dan Moore still at left tackle? It was supposed to be he could learn. And one of two things is true at this point, folks. Either Broderick Jones cannot play left tackle, which we know is not true. We saw the Ravens game. He played well at left tackle. Troy Fatanu has somehow passed him, which I guess good for Troy Fatanu that he learned to play the right side in a few weeks. Dan Moore still can't play the right side. I cannot be clear enough. If Arthur Smith is letting Pat Meyer decide that Dan Moore is the starting left tackle on this team, as far as I'm concerned, fire both of them before the season starts. What do you think, Zach?
I might not have the fire behind it you do, but it's getting to the point where even if there is a plan, it's a bad one. And I want to be proved wrong. Like when we drafted Kenny Pickett, all I said, I was mad, but I said, prove me wrong. I want to be proved wrong. please, Steelers staff, prove us wrong with this, because it just looks like it's haphazard. And Broderick Jones, I know he was in an arm brace and he had sweatpants on during Friday Night Live, but still practiced. So you had him in
Mhm.
there, and I told Dave that I think Mike Tomlin kind of gave us the blueprint, and I'm hoping that he really did, because in his pre-training camp thing, he said that he loved to troll the media, and that a lot of the stuff he says is just to mess with them, and he's going to do stuff just to mess with them. Maybe that's what this is. And even if that's what this is, again, mismanagement and a haphazard plan. There's no good answer to this. So I might not be asking for people to lose their jobs yet. I might not be at the Canada situation, but this is not being done well. A lot of other things are kind of working themselves out. The QB thing, if Justin Fields starts at this point, I would feel comfortable. Middle linebacker looks good. Why mess this part up? This is a crucial element to this. If we don't have a good offensive line, nothing else works.
At
So
this point, I have to expect Mason McCormick to be rolled out as a tackle.
at this point, I would legitimately not be surprised at any combination they threw out. If Darnell Washington started at center at some point, I would say, well, yeah, that sounds about right for this offseason. I'm not really sure what else they're going to do. So, but a quick positive while we're going. Another part we were worried about is wide receivers. I think Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson took that really personally, because they are showing up, and it's in drills, it's in 11, it's every single time they have a chance to show that the Steelers are okay at wide receiver, which I'm still not 100% there, but they're showing. They're like, if we don't get that Ayuk, if we don't get someone, we're fine. And the connection that Fields has with Jefferson and Fields has with it's legit. It's not Pickens level, but it's legitimate. So I see another week of this, including a good preseason game. I'll say, you know what? You can do what he wants. I don't need him.
The only thing I will say about Dan Moore playing left tackle, the only good thing I'll say, is that maybe Omar Khan is trying to fool the NFL. And if he is, I'm sorry I let the cat out of the bag, Omar. But then again, you traded Kevin Dotson. I never thought you could do that. But bottom line is, the only reasoning I would expect is, okay, if we pump Dan Moore enough, maybe somebody will give us their three who we can turn into R2. Although, honestly, if Roman Wilson is back, let's say in 2 weeks, and Calvin Austin, who's only 5'9", I mean, I guess we're playing a 6-foot tight end. Maybe that could work. Van Jefferson, I think they both have unique skills that could maybe translate into, maybe you could morph them together and make somehow a solid number two. But I mean, if the plan is to pump Dan Moore up enough to try to get somebody to trade for him, okay. I mean, Omar Khan is, as far as I'm concerned, certified genius. I get it. In Omar we trust, but gosh, I mean, the sooner we get Broderick and Fatano on the field, to me, the better off we are.
Exactly. Well, there was a ridiculous amount to go. But one thing I do want to make sure I shout out, on our podcast, we've been very vocal about thanking Baku for all of the amazing videos they've been taking at training camp. There's been a wonderful explosion of fans taking awesome video and then sharing it, and then other people like Baku sharing it around. So in the description of this video, I'll have a link of all the accounts I saw today. They were posting good clips that got shared around. We're talking, I think NBC shared one of them. Like, people are getting some views because of this, and it's wonderful for the community. And if we missed any, let us know. Let us know, please. If I missed anybody, I want to include everybody on this, because every single clip we get is something we get to talk about. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much for those of you who started following us on TikTok. We'll try to be back every day during training camp. If you like this video, like, share, subscribe, drop your comments in the chat. We're going to be trying our first live show after the preseason game. So if you guys can join us for that, we'd love to field your calls, field your comments, field your
August 10th,
questions, or
right?
just let you sound off. August 10th. Yep, absolutely.
August 10th. Awesome. Okay, so keep up. We have 1:55 tomorrow. We have another pads practice, and then we have a day off. So one more, and then we all get to breathe a little bit, guys.